BSing Sports with Brant and Swift. I'm Ryan, Bill as always, and today with us we have a very special guest from Hit 'em High, Hit 'em Low podcast. Jake, how do you pronounce your last name? I just forgot.
Biasado.
Biasado. Yeah, we just talked about it. Sorry, guys, I had a rough night. I'm going to be lighting it up on the show. Bill, why don't you go ahead and give us the topics we're going to discuss today? Obviously, it's Eagles football for those of you that can't figure it out, but
yeah, so if you're taking a look at any of the three of us right now, you see that Jake's got his Ricky Waters jersey on. Ryan's rocking his Black Cox jersey. And I'm sitting here with my 100th anniversary Dawkins jersey with the Eagles banner behind me. We're talking Eagles today. I was debating whether or not we should touch on the Phillies, how they just got swept, but because they got swept, I don't really care so much right this second. So we're just going to talk Eagles. Let's start it off with I know Ryan and I discussed it a little bit a couple weeks ago. Carson Wentz trade to the Indianapolis Colts. Jake, give me some feedback on how you felt about that when it first happened.
We all kind of knew as the offseason, like as week 12 passed into week 13, and all the reports were coming out that he was probably going to be dealt, or at least not a part of the Eagles anymore. Towards the end of last season, and as the offseason went by, sure there were times here and there we were kind of hopeful. At least I was always a big Carson guy. I've said the only current Eagles player jersey I have is a Carson Wentz jersey. I usually just get the throwbacks, but we were all kind of hopeful that maybe they would right the ship. They would, find common ground. But as it got more and more clear that he was going to be going, I think he landed in a great spot for him. I think the return was all right. I think there were so many people that had unrealistic expectations when that Matt Stafford trade went through, that they got, multiple firsts and Goff. And I was like, yeah, but like, we're going to be more on the Goff side of that. Like we're not going to be more on the Stafford side. So I was pretty pleased with the return. I think he's going to do very well, but I do think it's more of an organizational failure than anything. He has some problems that landed squarely on his shoulders, but I mean, we'll talk plenty about Howie, but this was a Howie mess up through and through.
Ryan?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Also, I do believe that there was a common ground at one point. I think it was Doug Peterson. There was a report that came out that Doug actually wanted to go back to Wentz in the upcoming season, and that's part of what got him fired. So I do believe that there was a common ground, and it was the head coach. And I think ultimately, Howie wanted nothing to do with it because, like you said, he kind of screwed it up. And I think this was his way of covering it up, was to just get rid of him and start fresh. And that quarterback factory thing, that comment's not going away ever.
No. Oh, no. And I know he's come out and he said that he regrets making that comment, but the fact that he made it to begin with is ridiculous. You don't draft a quarterback in the second round when you just signed a franchise quarterback to a contract.
I think the funniest thing about it was I was on the NBC Sports Philadelphia Facebook page, and as soon as Joe Flacco signed, the top comment was "Welcome to the quarterback factory."
yeah, that's hilarious. Actually, let's touch on the Joe Flacco signing real quick. I've discussed this in weeks past, where I think that he's going to be holding a clipboard and he's going to try and mentor Jalen Hurts. I since have changed my insight on that. While I do think he's going to be holding a clipboard because he's not going to beat Jalen Hurts out, I don't think he's there as a mentor for Jalen Hurts. I think he's there as an insurance policy when Jalen Hurts falls on his face, because I just don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be an NFL quarterback. There's a reason he sat behind Kyler Murray in Oklahoma. There's a reason he sat behind Tua Tagovailoa in Alabama. I think Joe Flacco is our newest old insurance policy, kind of in the what was his name? Jeff Garcia situation a couple years back. Take on that?
Yeah, I agree, actually. I'm going to go a little bit further and say that if the Eagles are competing in this division and Jalen Hurts isn't playing well, Hurts is going to be the one holding the clipboard. We just signed, a former Super Bowl MVP. I mean, granted, he's had one great game his whole life, but it was the only game that matters. So that people are going to look at that, they just bullied a potential MVP out of the city for the most part. So they're definitely going to be calling for some heads if Hurts isn't playing well and the Eagles are, in position to win something. They're going to call for Flacco, and he'll get his chance.
Yeah, when the first signing came out, I was kind of in the same idea. Like, this guy's coming in strictly as a mentor role. He knows his role coming in. There's no shot that he's going to be the starter and all. But after listening to that press conference with him and hearing the more details about the contract and everything, you're like, wait, what is going on here? So I do think that it does have kind of that insurance policy feel to it as well. But I certainly hope he doesn't get on the field. As an Eagles fan, you want to see the most out of Hurts. I'm with you. I don't have huge high hopes for him. I saw above average mobility, and then I saw average to below average accuracy, arm strength, and decision making. Sure, it's great seeing all these workout tapes in the off season. Seems like he's, addressing some of his flaws and all. And I would love to have him go out and be the MVP. I don't think that's likely. And I think that knowing this city, once there is some struggle, you're going to be hearing people calling for big sack Flack.
That's
big sack Flack, dude. I love it.
So yeah, I mean, for Joe Flacco, it's a guy over his career. He's got a 62% completion percentage, 41,000 yards, 224 touchdowns, 144 interceptions. So again, very, very cheap insurance policy for a guy who has performed decently well his entire career. Touching on Jalen Hurts really quick though. So I know he came out and it was like this big deal that he started the Saints game and he won the Saints game. However, he threw for like 48% completion, 131 yards. What he did it with was his legs, and the Saints weren't prepared for it. So if you're going to come at me as fans and be like, oh, Jalen Hurts was better because he was more mobile, that's not a quarterback, that's a running back. Don't give me that argument.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he was dropped interception away from losing that game. He basically put it in the defender's back pocket for him, and he didn't play well. He didn't play. Obviously, he's a young dude, and we've touched on this, Bill. 4 games is not a lot. It's definitely not enough to grade somebody. But in those 4 games, he really did not play that well. 52% completion rate is not going to get it done in the NFL.
No. And I've said it before, the quarterback, the style of quarterback I want to build a team around is somebody that's a passer first, but who can, keep a play alive with his feet. Like you're seeing, Josh Allen, exactly that. He's a guy that is a, cannon of an arm. He worked on his accuracy a ton. Now he's a relatively accurate passer, but when called upon, he can escape with his feet. He isn't going to be rushing over 10 times a game. And if he is, things probably aren't going too well. And what I see in Hurts is somebody that's too much of a run first guy. I need somebody that's going to be able to go through their progressions, especially when we have the wide receivers that we have here in Philadelphia. You're not always going to be able to go to that hot read.
Yeah, we're not always going to get open. We're going to get into the wide receivers. Let's.
Yeah.
We have probably a solid 30-minute conversation on wide receivers coming here. Moving away from.
I don't know why there isn't much to talk about.
Oh, there's a lot to talk about, how ineffective they are and how Howie drafted other guys who have performed significantly better than all of our wide receivers put together. But again, we'll get into it. So let's talk about Miles Sanders and his effectiveness out of the backfield when he's actually being utilized. I know Doug Peterson for his entire career said, oh, I need to run the ball more. I need to run the ball more. I need to run the ball more. And then he didn't. I think Nick Sirianni comes in here and the offensive coordinator comes in here, and I think they are a run first mindset, which is beneficial to, any fantasy people who hold Miles Sanders. But similar to the Joe Flacco situation, I think the signing of Jordan Howard is an insurance policy. But anyway, let's get into Miles Sanders real quick. Ryan, you first.
Yeah, I love Miles Sanders. When he's being utilized as one of the best backs in the NFL, you could even argue that he's top 5 at this point. His explosiveness, as soon as he makes his one cut, he's gone. Saints game, he had that long touchdown run, and he actually broke a tackle too, Malcolm Jenkins. So, in your face. But no, I love Miles Sanders, and he was a great pass catcher as a rookie. He wasn't as good at it last year, but I believe that wasn't all him. That Carson just looked entirely off last year. And as we've talked about, Jalen Hurts isn't the most accurate quarterback anyway. So I think he bounces back in a big way. I think Sirianni brings kind of like a 3-headed, monster with him. I mean, Sanders will take the lead kind of like Jonathan Taylor did, but, they use Naheem Hines and Jordan Wilkins in, Indianapolis very frequently. So I would expect the same out of Boston Scott and Jordan Howard.
Yeah, no, like you were saying, I'm hoping that Sirianni brings more of that run first mentality. I mean, in Philadelphia, we were a 67% pass, 33% run offense. And I understand, plenty of people are going to chime in and say like, oh, well, Sirianni wasn't calling the plays. But they were a 60-40 pass run, which was, I believe, 10th most run, offense when we were coming. I think we were 27 or 28th least, on the very bottom of that list. So, to go to a top 10, albeit later in the top 10 running offense, that's still, one of the more run heavy offenses in the NFL. And Miles Sanders he's a home run hitter, but he's a guy that needs those attempts to be able to get it. You're not going to get a home run on every hit. I mean, you're seeing guys, a great clip is 1 home run every 8 at bats. That's an incredible clip. So you need to get him those carries, you need to get him those touches. And you've seen what he did. He had 3 70 plus or 60 plus yard touchdowns last year, or the one wasn't because he fumbled it and JJ Arcega-Whiteside picked it up in the end zone. But still, the guy had 3 or 4 plus 60-yard, rushes. You just get him those touches and he'll get you those yards.
Yeah, a little bit of Miles Sanders stats here. So last season, went 164 attempts for 867 yards. That's 5.3 yards an average. And again, he had those couple of 70 yards runs. It's very effective when you get those big hits. But how do you not give a guy the football more often when he's getting 5.3 yards a touch? It's mind-boggling to me as a coaching staff that you would just let that go. Talking about the receptions that Ryan brought up, he only had 28 receptions last year where he had 50 the year before. Same situation that Ryan talked about, though. Carson was off. Jalen's not an accurate thrower. But because he is effective out of the backfield as a running back and a catching running back, I believe his effectiveness is rock solid. Again, I agree with Ryan, top 5 in the league.
Yeah, I don't want to, completely brush off the fact, like, yes, I do think that there is a lack of connection between the quarterbacks and him in getting him involved in the passing game, but he also had a lot of drops last year.
Yeah.
He went in from, going into where, like you said, the year before 50 plus receptions. And I'm like, man, this guy's a dual threat running back, obviously most explosive on, with his legs, but he's incredible also in the passing game. And I do think that there's a lack of confidence and connection between him and Carson and even him and Hurts. But, he definitely had a dropping problem that I'm hoping it was just something mental, and he can come into this year feeling rejuvenated with a coaching staff that, is going to feature him more, and he feels more confident in his game and get back to being that guy that can catch those swing screens and just take off.
All right. I think we're going to move on to wide receivers here real quick. Just some quick information for those of you who are not Eagles fans. We had one wide receiver play all 16 games last season, and his name was Greg Ward. He only had 53 receptions and 461 yards, which is extremely disappointing for a wide receiver on the field for 16 games, especially as a starter. He did have 6 touchdowns, which meant that the quarterbacks, whether it be Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts, trusted to throw him the ball in the end zone, but he's not a very big guy. So those are probably like down the field throws, not necessarily like in the red zone throws too much. But when that's your number one receiver by a guy that, like, the name Greg Ward doesn't like jump off the page at anybody in any league and anywhere. It's an embarrassment as an organization that you have wide receivers who just could not get it done. Now I wanted to go into a little bit of a split here because, like I said, you got Howie Roseman, who over the years has drafted just horrendously talent all over the place. But let's start with how we took Jordan Matthews over Devontae Adams. We can move on to JJ Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf. And I'm not ready to rule out Jalen Reagor's effectiveness. However, it's hard to ignore what Justin Jefferson did in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. But at the same time, we also got to look at it like this. Devontae Adams was a 3rd-round pick. DK Metcalf was a 2nd-round pick. Every team passed over them. This isn't that we're not just going to sit here, and bash just Howie. Every team passed over these guys, and it's tough in the NFL draft. Like, I mean, people pan out. You get studs in the 6th round. You get busts in the 1st round. You got your Tom Brady's, your Ryan Leafs. They happen all the time. Like it. You can't really just blame Howie, but I agree when it becomes a pattern over and over and over again of always missing on your picks, then it's concerning. And that's why I am concerned about Howie Roseman, because he does have that pattern. He always misses on his 1st-round picks and his 2nd rounds and his 3rd rounds and 4th rounds and so on.
No, I agree. And to touch back on something that you said earlier, Bill, that I think really ties in really well with this is when you're talking about how Doug Peterson in post games and all was always saying, I got to run the ball more. And he didn't. He also didn't adapt in a lot of ways in the passing game. I don't think he was putting these guys in the best positions to succeed. You talk to anybody that knew and followed Reagor at TCU, they were all like, this guy needs the ball in open space. He can be very fast and he can burn people, but he's not just a fly route runner. He's a guy that you need to get going in the screen game, get going in the end arounds, get him in the slants, and give him a little bit of space and watch him play. I mean, you saw with the punt return, he returned it to the house, and then he returned one more punt the rest of the entire season. Like, I don't think he was using our guys to the most effective ways. I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, we have Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers. They just weren't being used right. But I certainly don't think we have guys that the best guy is a 50-something catch, 460-something yard wide receiver. I'm hoping that Sirianni, with his vast wide receiver coaching background, is going to be able to see the talent that we have on our roster, albeit lacking certainly, but be able to put these guys in the best positions to succeed. Play Rager more as a slant screen wide receiver that will open him up to go on that deep bomb route. Play Ward however you wanted to, but yeah, I definitely think we passed on people going into last year's draft. I wasn't a Justin Jefferson guy. It's funny. I have a text still in my phone saying when they came on the clock, where I texted my buddy and said, "Hey, I hope we get Rager with this pick." I was proven wrong last year, and we'll see what happens this year.
I mean, for what it's worth, Rager hurting his thumb in the second game and being out for 5 games really hurt his statistics. But again, that's part of the reason I'm not ready to give up on him just yet. And like you said, they weren't utilizing guys correctly. Another receiver that we have on the roster, a kid by the name of Travis Fulgham. Nobody knew this kid's name going into week 4 we played San Francisco. And all of a sudden he catches the game-winning touchdown for the next 4 weeks. He's one of the best wide receivers in football. And then after that, completely vanished off of what looked like the team. He was out there, but nothing, no production, virtually non-existent on the field. What, in your opinion, happened to Travis Fulgham, Ryan?
Howie Roseman happened. There was a report that came out that Howie Roseman makes the 53-man roster. He does the game day roster. And once Alshon Jeffrey came back healthy, I'm sure Howie was in Doug's ear that Alshon needs to play because I screwed up giving him a bunch of money. So we need to make his production look, equal to the contract. So I think Howie Roseman happened to Travis Fulgham, just telling him to play Alshon Jeffrey. So right when Alshon Jeffrey came back is right when Fulgham disappeared. And Jeffrey, we knew what Jeffrey was. We knew he wasn't going to produce to the level of that contract that he has. So they should have just stuck with the young guy. Let's see what your kid's got. You're 4th place in one of the worst divisions in football history. You might as well just let them play.
Jake?
Yeah, I'm hoping that's what it is, that Howie, and certainly he has shown many of things that would make you think that that's what it is. You do hear those reports that, Fulgham had a laziness problem and a lack of effort at practice. That was some of the reasons, or reports that there were the reasons why he was cut from the teams he was leading up to the Eagles picking him up, cutting him, and then picking him back up. So I'm hoping that it was much more of a Howie, and I do agree. I tend to agree. I think Howie has shown that he is so stubborn to try to prove himself right and just, assure that job security of like, oh, what do you mean? Alshon was terrible. Look, he was paid pretty high, but look at this production, even on, when he's coming off an injury. So I certainly hope he can come back and go back to being that top level wide receiver. I was scrounging every waiver wire, at the beginning of that run, trying to pick him up in fantasy because he was insane. First 100-yard receiver that the Eagles had in a long time. And so I'm hoping he goes right back to being a top-notch wide receiver, and I'm glad that we have him.
Okay. Other wide receivers on the roster that were probably not being utilized to the best of their ability, a kid by the name of Deontay Harris. Oh, no, wait, I'm definitely wrong here. Help me out, Ryan.
Deontay Burnett.
Thank you, Deontay Burnett. Another quick kid with pretty decent hands, just not being utilized correctly by Doug Peterson and his staff. Let's talk about defense real quick. I know we got Fletcher Cox. I know his effectiveness. Everybody knows Fletcher Cox's effectiveness. Probably one of the top 2 interior offensive linemen in football. Let's discuss the linebacker position. Go.
The signing was good. I like the signing, but outside of that, we haven't had linebackers here, in a while. Like I was never high on Nigel Bradham. I didn't think he was that good. He was just kind of there to me, but I mean, that's the fault of the organization. The last good linebacker we had was probably Trotter. And dude, wow, I'm slipping over my words too, Bill. Whatever you have, I have. Go ahead, Jake. Talk about the linebackers a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, some people could argue before he decided to take on the IRS 1v1 that Kendricks was decent. He had a good stretch there. But
he came up big in the Super Bowl.
I think it's an area that the Eagles have never really valued and have tried to just scheme themselves around it. But when you got Guys like, Nate Jerry allowing, what was it, 13 for 13 George Kittle last season, or was it even higher than that?
What was the wide receiver? He was covering Claypool in the slot
Oh
against
my
Pittsburgh,
gosh.
wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he was,
That was
yeah.
terrible. Jesus.
And he was doing it all game. It's not like they were like, oh, they took advantage of a specific instance. I remember, watching it and listening to the post game and all the talking heads and all the radio shows and all saying like, geez, like, why didn't they adapt? Like, why didn't they just take him off of this guy? He's having his career year. He's a rookie, but he had the best game of his short career thus far, and we did nothing to give him any kind of help. We were just saying like, yeah, we want to make sure that Juju's covered and that Deontay Johnson's covered. You just go ahead and run away with it, and ended up basically just securing the win for him.
Yeah, I agree. That just goes back to, and we kind of discussed this very briefly last night. Jim Schwartz's bend but don't break philosophy, that constant prevent stuff. It gets exposed after a while. Again, I know we won a Super Bowl, almost said a World Series. I'm having a horrible day. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, we won a Super Bowl with Jim Schwartz's defense, Brandon Graham and the strip sack there at the end, and it was wonderful and amazing. But since he's been here, and I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries, Jim Schwartz was always the bend but don't break, prevent kind of defensive strategist, and good teams are going to expose that constantly, and that's definitely what happened in the Pittsburgh game.
It's also a Howie Roseman thing again, because, we went out and we spent, instead of, our second round pick on Logan Wilson, the linebacker from Wyoming, we got a project linebacker in the third round, the guy by the name of Taylor. I don't forget his first name. I know it starts with a D, but it's stuff like that. Logan Wilson is going to be a good football player, and he was a really good linebacker in Wyoming, and he can, play the pass. He can play the run. He can do it all. That's why he was the second round pick. But this is, again, Howie Roseman, just making the wrong decision again.
Yeah, Howie's drafting has been pitiful, and specifically in that position, he tries to get these bargain guys. Jordan Hicks could have been very good. He was way too injury prone for me to consider him like a great Eagles linebacker. Hence why I named tax evasion Kendricks without naming Hicks. But to touch on Schwartz, there's really one play that will just sum up his defensive scheme. It was the fourth and 13 against the Titans in overtime a couple seasons ago.
Oh, geez.
Where you get that stop, you win the game, and they're playing 20 yards off the line of scrimmage. Like that's the kind of play that you watch as an Eagles fan. You're just like, what are you doing? Like, you see these guys playing sticks defense. They're not even playing sticks. They're playing behind, in the yard behind that fence. They got an invitation, went to the wrong party. Like,
yeah, I can't tell you how many times I was screaming at the TV, start pressing the wide receivers, start pressing the wide receivers.
Get in the grill, make them uncomfortable. It's such an anti-Philly thing to have these people playing so far off. Like, make the guy afraid to catch the ball going across the middle. Like,
yeah.
You might get a flag. I get that. But there's a reason why people still do it. Like, I'm not advocating headhunt anybody, but make somebody afraid, make them hear those footsteps, make them take that one last look to say, where is this guy?
Yeah. This is why Brian Dawkins was the heart and soul of Philadelphia. That dude, it did exactly that. Like, yeah. Even like as he got older and he got a step slower and his coverage wasn't as good, they basically moved him down, into a linebacker spot for the most part. And people were scared. They knew he was there. They knew 20 was sitting in the middle of the field, and they wanted nothing to do with it. And that's why guys like Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown were such good cornerbacks, man. They were physical at the line of scrimmage. They were up in people's grills. They took that 5-yard bump and they rode it all 5 yards.
Yeah, I mean, that's also how Darius Slay likes to play, and they pulled him off to, again, Jim Schwartz's cover 2, cover 3, whatever he's running constantly. And you turned a really, really good corner into an average corner just simply because you weren't letting him do what he's comfortable doing.
Nnamdi Asomugha was the same way, man. That dude was so physical in Oakland, and then when he came here, they told him to play, off coverage, and obviously he was terrible. He was a bust. But it's just the change of scheme like that. It's hard to watch, man. Those fourth downs or those long third downs where I see 10 guys at the sticks, I'm like, Jesus. Every time I'm like, they're getting a first down. Like, there's no way.
Yeah. A little bit of stats on Eric Wilson is the signing we touched on in the very beginning of this. 122 tackles last year, 3 sacks and 3 interceptions. That's the best production we're going to get out of a linebacker in Philadelphia.
We're not getting that. They're going to find a way to screw that up. But
exactly, that's where I was headed. Yeah. But I mean, overall, I am excited to have Eric Wilson. The linebacker you were talking about, Davion Taylor, is his first name is Davion.
Yeah, Davion.
Yeah. Other guys in our linebacking core go by the name of Alex Singleton and Sean Bradley. Just throwaway names.
I do like Sean Bradley. I do think if he's healthy, he can develop with the right coaching, but that's just that.
Yeah, I like I was high on Bradley too when they drafted him. I was like, wow, really? Like I didn't really know who he was. Obviously, he went to Temple, so he was like kind of close to the area, but still I had to do some research. And I was like, man, I could get in with this guy. And
Yeah.
Singleton played well at the end of last year.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but before the season, who knew his name? What was his name?
No.
Exactly. Singleton did have 120 tackles, 2 sacks, and a pick. It was a big pick.
Yeah.
Let's I mean, we already kind of sort of talked on our secondary. Let's, I guess, move into draft and how we're really, really concerned about Howie Roseman doing anything.
No, exactly. I'm so excited for the draft, but I'm just like, why even get excited? It's gonna they're not gonna take anybody I want at 12. They're gonna, trade back into the first round, take another, somebody and overpay to get back there and get another, I don't know, defensive lineman. Like, don't get me wrong, you build in the trenches. I do agree with that. I know it's kind of an old mentality. I do get that. But right now, our defensive line is plenty good for this year and possibly next. I get they're getting up in age. You gotta fill those spots. But like, we have 11 picks. He's gonna get 9 of them wrong, probably more.
I love your optimism with Howie Roseman in the draft right now. It's just, now there have been reports that have come out that Jeffrey Lurie has a huge stake in who we draft. And I mean, I guess all owners really do, but if you're not a talent assessor and Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are not talent assessors, you really need to leave that to the professionals. But again, I mentioned a few things earlier. I know Deontay Adams was a 3rd round pick, so a lot of other teams passed on him, but you drafted Jordan Matthews ahead of him. And maybe Jordan Matthews has a different career if he's drafted in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Like, maybe. I'm not saying he wouldn't. But Devontae Adams has become one of the best wide receivers in football. You draft J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the 2nd round, 1 pick before the Seahawks take DJ Metcalf, and DJ Metcalf is an absolute monster and has torched the Eagles 3 straight games. And then again last year, I'm not ready to give up on Jalen Reagor. However, Justin Jefferson was sitting there, and we saw what Justin Jefferson did last year. So I've got very little hope for Howie Roseman and all 11 picks of our draft here this year. So me and Ryan kind of touched on this last night just a little bit. What would you, so hypothetically, if the opportunity came along to get to number 1, what would you be willing to give for it? Ryan, thanks for coming back. What do you got?
What was the question?
If there were an opportunity to get to the number 1 pick today, 101, what would you give up to get there?
Hurts this year's first, and I would even give up 2 firsts next year.
Yeah, no, I was telling you, I put kind of like a joke poll out on my Twitter, and right when they acquired the Dolphins pick, and I was like, all right, NFL football fans, mainly just like Jags and Eagles fans, would you accept this trade? And it was exactly that. It was Hurts, the 12th overall, the Dolphins pick, and our first next year. And myself, I'm sitting there like, I would do that all day. It would probably even take more than that. It would probably also take that compensatory pick from the Colts. And then I might, be a little hesitant, but I would still probably pull the trigger. I mean, yeah, we have plenty of holes on this team, but having a guy that can be the quarterback for the next 14 years, you don't need to fill all those holes year 1.
Yeah,
I'm confused as to why you think Howie Roseman would draft Trevor Lawrence with the 1st overall pick. I think he would go some community college defensive end.
So the quarterback we're discussing, Trevor Lawrence, for those of you who aren't huge college football fans, Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, he's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, and he might even be better than that. So we might even be talking Peyton Manning level prospect. But yeah, this dude's a stud. He has the look of a quarterback, 6'6", 230. He's one of those run second guys. He's mobile. He can move, but he's got the arm strength. He's got the accuracy. This dude throws a really nice ball. he's just been a winner at every level too. I think that national championship game loss or whatever was like his first loss like through high school and college or something like that. It was nuts. So this guy's a winner. He's a heck of a quarterback, and I probably would sell that compensation pick as well. Like I would give it up for him. This dude's worth the farm. Sell it.
Jake?
Yeah, no, it's funny you say he has the look of the quarterback. Like he has the physical traits, but you see this guy in the picture and you're like, this guy just coming off the beach. Like,
well, I mean, yeah, he also started Point Break for those of you that don't know. But
no,
Sunshine.
It's awesome. Yeah, no, exactly. You see him, you're like, sunshine. But the guy, you said it all. The guy's got it. The guy has every attribute that I personally look for in a quarterback that you want to build a team around. Exactly. He's a run second guy that can utilize his mobility. But he is a true passer, great ball, great accuracy, great arm strength. Yeah, he's got it all. And I don't think it's the best situation in Jacksonville, but I think this guy is going to succeed no matter where he goes.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's got Chark. Like they have some receivers down there, but I just want to touch on something real fast. Like if you think about it, like with Jalen Hurts and all that, like, and I'm a huge proponent of not putting wins and losses on the quarterback. I think people that like put wins and losses on one player in any sport are kind of idiots. That means that to me it shows that like you've never played a sport in your whole life, and you don't understand the concept. However, if you look at the history of running quarterbacks, Cunningham, Vic, Lamar Jackson right now, like those teams don't win Super Bowls. Like they just don't. If you're a run first quarterback, like it's never happened. Like you can't point out one run first quarterback to me that has won a Super Bowl. And like I said, I'm not saying it's all their fault, but that's just how the dynamic of the team is built. And, even with Lamar Jackson, like he was terrible his first two playoff appearances. He was awful. So that's why I don't have high hopes for Hurts. You put those running quarterbacks in situations where they need to throw, and time again they've proven that like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, so let's say the draft shakes out exactly the way it's sitting, and the Eagles sit at the number 12 pick. Who do you think they will take? Not who they should take. Who do you think they will take? We'll go into should after. Jake, start with you.
I don't think that they'll actually take Kwity Paye. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Howie's going to end up just taking that D end. I don't think they will. I think that they're going to take either Waddle or Horn. I think the way it's going to shake out, those are probably the two most likely guys that they're going to take. They're not who I would take, but I think that's who Howie's going to pick.
I was thinking Waddle as well, or I'm not well dressed up on Appalachian State's team, so I don't know like who they have on their roster. I'm sure he's eyeing somebody up because Howie's the smartest guy in the war room. But no, I think it's going to be Waddle or the name escapes me, but the cornerback from Virginia Tech.
Farley.
Yeah, Farley.
He's fallen like crazy after that second back surgery. He could
that
be.
Sounds like us drafting a player who's already injured.
Yeah, no, it sounds right. It sounds like we're getting Sidney Jones.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. And then he goes and he's a top 5 cornerback in Jacksonville. You got to be kidding me. If Ronald Darby and Sidney Jones don't prove to you that Jim Schwartz's defense was the problem, like I don't know what will.
No, I'm hyped for Jonathan Gannon though. I am. I know he's unproven, but the guy excites me, and the cornerbacks and secondary players that have excelled under his coaching, I'm hoping he can bring that same level of coaching up to players to Philadelphia.
I like the whole staff. I like the offensive coordinator, the guy we took from LA. He just worked with Justin Herbert for a year, and I was always high on Justin Herbert. I told everybody and their mom that he is going to have a better career than Joe Burrow. Obviously, but their jury's still out on that statement. But year one, score 1 for me, because Herbert he's a winner, man. If you watch that guy play, he's a run second guy, but he's trucked some people. He's a big dude.
Tough.
He's got a strong arm, man. He makes all the throws. That I was hoping that if the Eagles were going to draft any quarterback, I was hoping that it was going to be Justin Herbert, and then I would have been like, all right, Carson, kick you to the curb, bro. But
It's actually funny that you guys mentioned the coaching staff for Nick Sirianni. There were a lot of rumors that came out and reports that said Howie and Jeffrey Lurie chose Doug Peterson's coaching staff and dictated very hard who he was able and not able to keep and then rehire. But from what I understand, the new report that came out is Nick Sirianni picked almost all of his own coaching staff. He brought in his own guys, which I think is promising. If Howie Roseman gave up the reins on that and let Nick have his choices and bring in who he wanted to.
Well, I can tell you right now how Howie and Jeffrey definitely didn't have their hands on it at all. We're excited about it. If they had their hands on it, you'd be having, not only drafting the players from Appalachian State, but you'd have their towel boy as our DC, and you'd have Ball State's quarterback coach as the OC. And when you see so many of the connection from people that Sirianni used to coach with, it definitely makes me feel like they were like, okay, at least for your first year, like go out and pick your staff and let's run with it.
All right.
Yeah, it's a promising look, and like you said, we're excited about it. So they must be hands off. That was a good one. I like that.
I think we're gonna wrap it up with our last topic here. Outside of quarterback, because we've already discussed how none of us really have faith in Jalen Hurts. I know 4 games isn't a lot. Give me what you think is the biggest hole the Eagles should address here in the offseason on the team in general, not defense or offense, just in the team in general. Ryan, you first.
The defensive backfield. Well, I mean, if they would fire their GM, that's not realistic though. So I'm going to say defensive backfield, but GM's the real answer. I mean, I'm always looking for a job, so wherever I got to fill out the application.
Jake.
Exactly. No, I would tend to agree. It would be the secondary, but to say something other than just repeating after Ryan, closely behind that, I would say is depth at the offensive line.
I was gonna say depth at the offensive line. Not that I don't believe the secondary needs help and the defensive backfield needs help, but it showed last year that when you don't have offensive linemen, no matter who's back there, they're not going to win games.
Yeah.
I mean, they're old. You look at the paper, the talent on paper. I mean, Kelsey. The dude's missed 3 snaps his whole career, but they're old. Like Kelsey's, in his 30s. Johnson's 30. I remember when Johnson was drafted. Brandon Brooks hasn't played a full season in a couple of years now. They're just old, and I'm so happy that we finally moved off Peters. God, that he should have retired last year.
He hasn't signed anywhere yet. Let's not talk about saying that.
I think if Peters comes back, I'm just going to start door dashing during the games. I'm not even going to watch them anymore. I'm just. If we screw up the draft and Jason Peters comes back, I'm done. I'm not watching. I'll wear my jersey around while I'm door dashing or something. But
I'm excited for the development of Halapaludi Vadi Vaitai and Jordan Mailata. I think they could be. Oh, you laughing because I said the name correctly?
No, because he's off the team.
Yeah, he's in Detroit, bro.
Oh man, I am so far behind. Well, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, you are. Holy
Either way,
shit,
Jordan
dude.
Mailata.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Damn.
You're thinking of Dillard probably.
No, I'm not excited for Dillard.
No, Vaitai got the bag too. He got paid pretty good.
5 years, $50 million from Detroit, just for a swing tackle. Hell yeah!
All right, good for him. I apologize for not having been
but you're
versed in that
right.
information.
He is developing.
I mean, congrats to you for pronouncing the name right. But
I
mean, we'll give you a small consolation prize for that. But damn, man, that happened last offseason.
Yeah, I feel bad now. At least I said, dude, I practiced for an hour trying to figure out how to say this dude's name correctly, and all of a sudden he's not even Eagle.
Well,
I can see you sitting there practicing his name, only to come and boast about it on the show, and then we shoot you down hey, bro, he hasn't been an Eagle for over a year.
Story of my life.
It's okay, dude. We've all been there, I can't even think of words right now. I should know all the draft prospects off the top of my head. I can't think of any of their names. So
It happens. All right, I think that's going to do it for us here on BSing Sports. Jake, like I said, or like Ryan said earlier, from Hit 'em Low, Hit 'em High in Philly. Thanks so much for coming on, Ryan. Obviously, we do this every week. We enjoy it.
Yep.
I don't think we're going to do a poll question this week. We haven't done one in a couple of weeks. We didn't get a ton of feedback on it, so maybe I'll bring it back next week.
All right, how many wins do you think the Eagles get? I'll just ask that on the podcast. You can answer it on the Facebook page, whatever. How many wins do you think the Eagles get? I think the over-under for them is 7. I'm taking the under, way under. I'm going 6. 17-game schedule. I'm going 6.
They do play the Jets. You're right. They play the Jets.
Yeah. No, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on. I really, really appreciate the time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Looking forward to keeping in touch, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Another